Hello? Is there anybody in there?
Hey Jesse,
Hello?
welcome back to the Your Mother Ate My Dog podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Your mic sounds all weird.
Are you sure? Like how
Yeah.
weird?
It was like, I'm hi, and we're gonna be like that.
How is it now?
Seems fine now.
Strange. So, Blade, huh?
It's right. Right. Quite something.
Why Blade?
I don't know. I've like known of its existence, and I knew it was, uh, uh what did I know? I don't know why I chose Blade.
Chris Christopherson is why you chose Blade.
That was a weird one. I was
Hell,
not expecting to see Chris Christopherson.
hell of a country singer, hell of an actor.
That was quite a weird inclusion. When I was looking up like the cast of this film, Wesley Snipes and Chris Christopherson were the only two people I recognized.
The two white guys. Makes sense?
Yeah, Wesley
You
Snipes, my favorite white man.
you didn't recognize Steven Dorff?
Oh, who the hell's Stephen Dorff?
Well, he played Deacon Frost, the main villain.
Well, what's he in?
I don't know what he's in. He's been in a lot of things that I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, no,
But
I didn't recognize him.
he has a familiar name. I don't know, Steven Dorff.
It's like Ganondorf.
It's exactly like Ganondorf.
Yep, they're
Um,
brothers.
so our the second vampire movie out of the last three, the second vampire movie in a row that you've picked. We had a little bit of fun on Instagram this week with vampire movies and getting people to choose which movie they wanted to see between Blade and Interview with the Vampire. They chose Interview with the Vampire mostly, but we had already picked Blade. Um, there were a lot of good suggestions for future movies.
Yes, there were.
I noted a few. Had another one told to me outside of Instagram that I might go to in the future. A lot of creature movies. Um, but we chose Blade because there's a Blade 2, which we'll be watching next week, and then a Blade 3, which we'll be watching the week after. Very exciting.
Oh, totally. Now, I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
My first question is, have we done an intro yet? Or was that the part
Uh,
where I couldn't really understand you?
we did things a bit differently. So the intro was where you couldn't understand me, but I didn't have really an intro. I just said, "Hey Jesse, welcome back to the Your Mother Ate My Dog
Oh,
podcast," where one of us picks a movie each week and we dig deep and analyze and really get to the core of the movie to find out if it's good or bad or somewhere in between. How are you doing today? That was my intro.
oh.
I tried to do something a little bit different. Clearly didn't work because you didn't understand
Well,
me.
I mean, I'm sure it was quite effective. Hopefully it came through for the folks, but you just,
Sometimes, sometimes when editing this,
retouch.
and I may,
The honesty is too much.
I may edit this out or not edit this out, but sometimes I like it's weird when we're doing it in real time, but then it comes through clear.
Right.
And then the opposite, sometimes it's clear and then it comes out weird. So who knows?
I mean, we'll wait and see, I suppose. And my second question is, this person who suggested another film,
Yeah,
was that your partner or was that someone else?
it was somebody else.
Oh,
They had they actually suggested a few movies, many that we've already seen before. Like I asked you about The Lighthouse. That was one of them. But then another one, another creature movie. We're getting kind of ahead of ourselves since we should probably talk about Blade, the movie of the week,
we'll get
n-
there.
not the movie we're thinking about for next in the future. But there's some interesting like 80s creature movies
Oh
that
yeah.
we had no idea. I had no idea about. So very exciting times
I know
ahead.
it. I know at my work, people give me lots of recommendations. Like Greg himself has
Yeah.
one movie he's really set on. I haven't seen it, so I might do it at some point.
Shout out to Greg.
Shout outs to
Um,
Greg.
he always has my back
He sure
with
does.
these kind of things. Loves Con Air.
He does look on air. Yes.
I have a question now.
Okay, hit me with it.
Is this the first Marvel movie? Answer, no. Howard the Duck was, apparently. But this was up there. This was like the second one.
Yes,
Have you seen Howard the Duck?
I've seen clips of it. I know of its existence, but have never watched it, the whole thing. I know it's
Very tempted
weird.
to go with Howard the Duck for next week, but I will not.
Okay, it's supposedly very bad. Also,
Yes. Do you have any other questions?
no, my questioning time is over.
I think we're able to do this for Blade because everybody has heard of the movie Blade. Like it's not a Dr. Otto, it's not a weird obscure movie. People know Wesley Snipes as Blade 1, 2 and Trinity.
Yes, that is true.
Did this movie First of all, when did you watch this movie? Did you watch it today?
I watched it yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay. Um, did this movie give you any sort of vibes for other movies perhaps we've watched on this podcast? Does it
Um.
remind you of anything?
Oh, well, you saying that makes me think it should.
This movie gave me serious The One vibes,
Oh yeah, I can see
starring
that.
Jet Li. Yeah, a little futuristic sci-fi-ish.
Hmm. There was a scene in this movie that made me think of Old Boy actually, where they were plucking out teeth.
Yes.
I was like,
There
oh
was also a scene that reminded me of The Matrix when he was dodging bullets.
yeah, the slow motion bullet thing. Yeah,
It's weird that you bring up The One, because
I
I
didn't bring up the one. That was you.
I did notice there were a few connections between the two films.
Yes.
Um, I think there's three connections that I've noticed.
Okay.
The first one was that Jet Li, the star of The One, was actually supposed to be Deacon Frost, played by Steven Dorff,
Oh,
Ganondorf,
Ganondorf. Yeah.
but he chose to join the cast of Lethal Weapon 4 instead.
Oh yes, coveted induction into that series.
Speaking of Chris Christopherson from earlier, there were some people who were angry about his character, Abraham Whistler, because he was originally a comic book character,
Yeah.
but a black comic book character.
Oh,
He was based off of, it wasn't the actual name, but he was based off of somebody else who was black, Blade's kind of mentor.
I
So there was
see.
some whitewashing accusations.
Okay.
Did you know that they're rebooting the Blade franchise?
Yes, with Mahershala Ali, right?
Yes. So 2023, next year, Mahershala Ali starring as Blade. The
That sounds cool.
character or the actor playing Abraham Whistler, Delroy Lindo,
Cool.
who starred in The One.
It was in the one.
He was in The One. The
Yes.
third connection, Bram. Well, actually, this is a connection of a different thing, but
Okay.
Bram Stoker, who did Dracula, who was the last vampire movie. His actual name is Abraham,
Oh,
and the character of Abraham Whistler was also partially based off of Van Helsing,
oh.
whose first name also is Abraham,
Well, there you go.
from Dracula. Yeah, and those are my connections to our podcast, which I didn't know until I finished watching.
That's a lot more than I would have anticipated. Well,
There
actually,
are
we're
a lot
getting
of
there. We're starting to watch more and more films. It's gonna bound to happen even more and more.
Yeah, a lot of fun facts from this film.
Hmm.
And I'll have more sprinkled in as we talk more, but I feel like I'm talking a lot. So, do you do you have anything to say about the 1998 Marvel movie Blade?
I don't have a single thing to say.
No notes today.
Yes, I do have notes actually.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what did you think about the interactions between characters? Like, did you think that there was a lot of good chemistry happening between characters, or not really?
The way that you're phrasing this question makes me think that no, it wasn't something that I noticed.
Okay.
Um, we'll talk more about acting
Yes.
later, um, which I guess plays into that. But
Yes.
tell me what you're thinking.
Well, I just felt like it seemed like every actor in this film like practiced their lines to like a brick wall and then just used that in the film. Like no one had any sort of connection with any other character, it felt like to me. Especially like ones that you really think there should be, like with Blade and Whistler.
Hmm.
Like it almost seemed like they hated each other. And like I thought there should have been more, I guess, camaraderie or like a bond between them, especially since Whistler, like I guess, sort of took him in, right, and like saved him. And
Right.
I don't know, like I guess they're just like trying to be edgy. Maybe that's what they were just like. The whole film itself is, I guess, pretty edgy, and maybe they just didn't care to make that sort of those sort of relationships more thorough. And the same, like another note on that sort of is Blade himself. I thought Wesley Snipes did like a decent job. Like he was definitely the most interesting characters, or he was in the top two for me anyway. He's like in contention with another character that I really like. But his backstory was not fleshed out like barely at all, and it just made me not really care what happened to him. Like there just
Yeah.
wasn't any sort of weight to any of his actions. I mean, I understood the basic premise that vampires killed his mom and now he's like enacting revenge, but just wasn't that yeah, it wasn't that engaging, I guess.
I think the writing in the movie was just bad.
Yeah, that is true.
I didn't really notice that the characters didn't really interact. It could just be a vampire thing. But now that you say it, yeah, it wasn't very good.
Hmm.
Which, I mean, the acting in this movie wasn't very good at all. But
That's true. I will say the other character that I really liked was Quinn. He was that guy who kept getting his arm cut off.
yes,
I just
like
felt like
he was a comic relief, basically.
he was comic relief, but it was like actually pretty effective. Like I found myself actually laughing at what he was doing and how he was acting. And yeah, he like I could tell he really put his all into his character that he was playing, and it actually worked pretty well. He was like the one performance that I thought stood out the most.
Originally, he had a very small part, but he like forced the director to give him a bigger part because he was doing so well and they liked him so much. And yeah,
Oh yeah,
if he wasn't in the movie, it would have been much worse.
yeah. Like Frost was pretty flat, and he was just like annoying. Really, it's like oh I'm edgy, and I don't know, like just didn't work.
And very pale.
Yes, very pale. Also, the character played by Udo Kier, he was like the head of the like I guess like that vampire. I don't know.
Yes, the underground big table vampire cult.
Yeah,
Yep.
that guy he did all right, but I kind of really like Udo Kier, so it was maybe a little biased.
Apparently the third time he's played a vampire in a movie.
Yeah, no, that
Has
doesn't
one of those
surprise me.
faces.
Yeah,
The main woman, Dr. Karen Jensen.
yeah,
Um, I mean, I wasn't overly enamored with her. However, I did like her story. Like the fact that like, she was a pretty big part in Blade having success
oh
and
yeah,
getting to his goal, which um, you don't really see much in these kind of movies. Like it's or the protagonist doing everything, but
that's true.
she
And
was she knew her blood.
I also really liked something that actually surprised me about this film is like when she came into the like when she was introduced, I'm like, oh, there's the love interest. but that didn't really end up happening.
No, he got more. He got yeah more lovey with his mother,
Yeah,
even though he wasn't really into it.
yeah. So I'm glad
Uh,
that she wasn't just there as a love
that
interest.
was big for me. Like she wasn't just the girl. Yeah.
I was just saying a scene that really like took me back. He's like, you know where they went to that? I guess it was like a database, and there was like that really large man.
Pearl, yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
Oh,
What was
okay.
the deal with Pearl?
Yeah, that was strange. Maybe that's in the comic book or something. Comic books.
I hope so.
That was really weird. I was not expecting that at all.
Just
It reminded me of
ruined.
Slither. Have you seen that movie, Slither?
No.
Oh, well, it reminded me of that. But
It's funny that you bring up the movie Slither because that's what we're watching next week.
oh,
Just kidding.
I know.
Yeah, Pearl. Yeah, vampires.
Vampires. You know what? Okay, give me a couple things you liked about this movie.
Well, I did mostly.
That was
Um,
you like that was basically it. What you gave me already. That's what you liked.
some CGI. The fight scenes were decent.
Mm-hmm.
Wesley Snipes had a quote saying about how he approached playing Blade, and he said he approached him as this really cool character where he gets to do martial arts and wear a leather suit. And I think that sums up the movie pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the he he was Blade was a decent character. He it was cool seeing him jump around and chop people
Yeah,
uh, with his sword.
yeah. The sword was cool. I like the hilt on the sword that like would chop your hand off if it wasn't him using it. I think it was cool.
Yeah, yeah, that was cool. I understand why there was three movies
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a TV series as well.
Right.
I think Mahershala doing Blade the reboot will be great.
I'm excited for that. A couple
Yeah.
more things that I liked because I will say like the trajectory of this like review I guess is going negative. I would say for both of us. And while I was watching it, I was kind of not. Anyway, so I was looking for things that I liked, and one of the things that I thought was cool was all the driving scenes. There was like some really interesting shots that they did with the driving scenes. Like it was more like you know how in action movies, like maybe not all action movies, like when people get into a car and it's kind of like if you can tell everything outside is all fake and stuff. But I thought the way they did it seemed more realistic. I don't know. Like it really made me feel like they're driving that car right now. So that was one thing. And the other thing
Okay.
I thought the music was fitting, like it was edgy and upbeat, kind of fun.
Right.
So those like
Uh,
I was really grasping for some good
going
things.
going back to the driving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess I liked how they kind of sped it up. I don't know if you noticed that. There was at least one scene where the camera was outside of the car and they like sped up
Yes,
the driving.
I do have.
The
I actually have that in one of my notes, but I have like I put it. There were weird moments that made people look fast, and they just like speed up the footage, but it like to me it didn't look very smooth. It's like I could just tell oh they're just like made this they like made the playback speed faster. I don't know.
yeah.
I guess I don't know how else you would do it, but it I didn't like that effect very much.
Oh, you didn't like that effect.
No, I looked it looked kind of stupid.
Oh,
But like I
okay.
guess there were I guess maybe not all the driving scenes I liked then. Cuz that is true. There was one where it's kind of like just sped up like in the one. They had like a bunch of speeding up stuff scenes. But I guess there's just this one scene. Like it reminded me of like Batman kind of. It was like just dark and shadowy. I don't know how to describe it.
The one came out in 1999,
Uh-huh.
so it's not like maybe Blade was maybe the one was stealing from Blade.
Maybe.
Um, I do have a spoiler. I don't know if you know this, but it would appear that Abraham Whistler, Chris Christopherson, he died in the movie, but
Yes.
he comes back in the
Oh,
second and the third movie, or the
okay.
second movie, I guess. He's alive.
Oh,
A
jeez.
little different, perhaps a little more vampire-ish, but he's in both those movies.
Ah, interesting.
Jessica Biel and Ryan Reynolds are in the third one. He
Oh,
played Trinity.
that's fun.
That's I think the only one that I really have seen. The third one. I think I had it on DVD growing up.
So you've only seen the third one up until now.
I thought maybe I had seen this movie, but none of it seemed familiar.
Interesting. You don't often like hear of somebody like having only watched the third of a trilogy.
Well, this came out in 1998. I would have been 7.
Yeah.
This this movie wouldn't have been a movie that would have been acceptable for a 7-year-old to watch. So
No.
when the third one came out, whenever it came out, I was probably, in my early teens.
I guess that makes sense.
So then that would have been the movie I would have watched. And then like, is it out on DVD in 98? Probably not. VHS, who has that? So
Fair
makes
enough.
it makes so much sense. You know what doesn't make any sense?
What's that?
Why is Blade in Russia at the end of the movie?
He just, it's timely.
Well, yeah, it's timely. 24 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess he got done all he needed to do in America, and he had to move abroad, start taking out the vampires there.
I haven't seen the second one, so I don't know if it's based overseas.
Yeah.
Um, hopefully it is, or it doesn't make any sense. This was not the worst movie that we've seen.
No.
This is the 11th movie. Actually I don't know. I probably gave it a pretty similar score to the one. I don't know. I can't remember which one had a better score, but
I got to say, I've been meaning to go back to our other episodes and write down the scores so we know. I'll probably do that.
um, yeah, I have them written down. Sometimes I do change them, kind of as we're going, because if you say something, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
All right.
Did you want to do scores, or do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think we've pretty much covered it.
I think so. A 2-hour movie. Um, again, the movie that I've picked for next week is an hour and a half. You're welcome.
I like that.
Originality. I give it a 5, which I feel now is high. It's based on an existing Marvel character. I didn't know before seeing the opening credits that Blade's a Marvel character.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a vampire movie, um, which is also kind of a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
They do follow kind of
Same like
a
formula.
typical, yeah, hero's journey kind of thing.
Yeah.
The reason why I gave it a higher score is because of the doctor, the hematologist, just how she kind of helped things out, which I thought was refreshing
Yeah,
in
for
a
sure.
macho man movie such as Blade.
Mm-hmm.
5.
Yeah, my originality, like I do try when I try to give these scores, like I know it's based off a comic book, so it's a little unfair, I guess, in some way to score originality when it's based off of something that already exists. But my score for originality was actually the same as yours. Like a little less because I guess it was based off the comic books, but then yeah, it did like I was completely taken off guard that the main female character wasn't just there as a love interest. And yeah, same score as you.
The ending. How did you like the ending?
Uh, It's one of those. It's not a very memorable ending, I guess. Like honestly, had you not mentioned like a minute ago that he was in Russia, I probably would have forgotten about that.
Does that count as the ending though? It's more like the epilogue.
I guess. And the ending, I can't remember what happens at the ending. At the end, what happens?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. So it's a classic fight scene, good versus evil,
Yeah.
Blade versus Deacon Frost. Deacon Frost was just bled on, so now he has like the power
Mm-hmm.
of the gods or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Which okay, so before that happens, sacrificing the 12 of them, and then those like the skull uh, bird things come out of
Yeah.
everybody's body. I
Yeah.
thought that was decent. That was all right.
Yeah. That was kind of cool.
I don't mind it, but I thought Mr. Frost getting all these powers, he was chopped in half and then like regenerated himself.
Mm-hmm.
He had his arm cut off, regenerated, but then he died way too easily. He got
Oh,
those
those
the
like
serums
yeah.
just, and then he had that line like, oh, because Blade looked up and saw that those serums were just in the wall, and he's like, oh, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna get those, stupid head? And then he threw the blade up there, and it did the thing where the thing opened up and it exploded the wall, and he caught it behind his back really cool,
Yeah.
and then he threw it, and it all got in, and the syringes all came into Deacon, and then he like toxic Avengered himself and kind of exploded,
Right.
and that was it. That was the end of Deacon Frost, which I thought too easy. Like, what was even the point of getting the sacrifices and
Right.
bleeding on his head? And then he ended up in Russia. Oh, then he had the conversation with Dr. Karen Jensen about how you gotta make the serums better so
Right.
that I can live.
Oh yeah, and then it ended.
And then it ended, and
Yeah.
then he's in Russia.
Yeah.
So I hope for her sake she's in the second one. Maybe they just, I, I don't think I looked up her IMDb because I'd never seen her before, and she hasn't really done much.
Okay.
I don't think I saw Blade 2 on her credits, so
Okay. But her character might return. It just won't be her.
maybe
It's
that's a
possible.
maybe.
It's possible.
So out of 10, what do you give ending?
Well, um, I barely remembered it, and now that you've jogged my memory, it's still pretty unmemorable. So, probably like oh gosh, yeah, it kind of sucked. Like a three.
Okay, I gave it a 5, right down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fight scene was it was cool, I guess. Um,
Yeah, kind of. I thought there were better fight scenes than that one.
yeah, he died too easily and then ended up in Russia.
Yeah.
Okay, expectation. You want some positivity? I gave it a 7,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't really have too high of a hope for this '90s vampire movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it exceeded my expectations, and I enjoyed it. I had fun, and I did not hate it, and that's all you ask for in these kind of movies. So a 7.
That's true. Yeah, I actually had pretty low expectations because I had heard it wasn't like the best movie ever. And I know I'm like sounding pretty negative, but it wasn't like overall as a movie, like an action vampire movie from the 90s. Yeah, it was actually pretty solid. It had its flaws for sure, but I was nitpicking a little. Like they weren't that bad. And so I had my score for this at an 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Blade, one of the first, like it kind of started the Marvel movies. I mean
Hmm.
Spider-Man at that time, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans
Yeah.
weren't out yet, but they came after and kind of helped it out. But
Yeah.
Blade and Howard the Duck were the first ones.
Right.
Okay, acting. Um, I gave acting a 3,
Yeah.
much like your ending score. Very cheesy. Did not like Steven Dorff as Um, Deacon Frost,
Yeah.
very very pale and just kind of a whiner. And then like most of just his interaction, him and the bad guys weren't very good actors.
Yeah.
The like the guy, the red-headed guy you liked,
Quinn.
Quinn, yeah, was good. He's been in a lot of stuff. Like he was, I recognized him. I don't know what he's been in, but he's an actor I've seen before.
Yeah.
He was fine. Obviously, he's not a bad actor.
Hmm.
Wesley Snipes, was not winning any awards for this movie.
No.
He didn't have to do much. Just kind of stand there and say these deep lines,
Yeah.
deep one-liners. Um, but yeah, three, nothing great.
Yeah, my score is pretty close to that. That character that I mentioned, Quinn, he like he did a lot of the heavy lifting, I thought, in terms of this score that I'm going to give. And yeah, Frost was I kind of hated him, and Wesley Snipes, like he gave the right performance for that role, I think. But yeah, definitely nothing to write home about. And then everyone else was pretty flat. And so I had I mainly because of Quinn and like some okay performance from Wesley Snipes. I gave this movie a 4 for acting.
Wesley Snipes went to jail
He did for tax
on
evasion,
that.
right?
Tax evasion, yeah, not acting related.
No, not acting related.
Okay, so with all the notes that we've gone over and the positives and the negatives,
Yep.
if you could score this movie out of 10, what would you give it?
I am perfectly down the middle. I'm giving it a 5. Like decently memorable, but forgetful at some points. Hit and miss with the acting. The action scenes were also pretty hit and miss. Some good parts and some bad parts. 5.
5 out of 10 from Jesse. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Weird that I'm giving it a higher score than you. This is a Jesse movie, but it was a fun romp. Um, had some problems, but
Yeah.
it was watchable.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to the sequel, but maybe we stay away from it on the podcast.
Yeah. At least for now.
Yeah, okay, so this is episode 11. Maybe episode 111, we'll hit up Blade 2.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. It'll be a couple years from now.
Um, yeah, so we started this podcast in January, 4 months. We do one a week. So yeah, 2 years from now.
Yeah. About that.
Okay, wow. Blade.
Blade. Pretty exciting stuff. Can't you tell? By it.
Vampires. Are you done with the vampire genre for a little bit now?
I think so. Although there are other ones I do want to see, but I might put it on the back burner for now.
There was one movie that was, I'm sure you probably saw it, that was mentioned to us on Instagram that I had never heard of before, and I was seriously considering doing it.
Hmm.
It was a vampire movie from the mid 80s, but then we can't just keep doing vampire movies.
This is not a vampire movie podcast.
And then there was another creature movie. And I'm like, oh, maybe, but no. I'm going back to like a normal movie,
Okay.
kind of a straight movie,
Straight movie.
no craziness. Well, actually, I don't like a normal movie. I meant.
I know what you mean. Is this is this the movie that you like messaged me asking about?
No, no, no. It has nothing
Okay.
to do with that is that's a movie that I'll probably definitely do
Okay.
in the future, but um, that's not for next week.
Okay.
The hint,
Hmm.
the hint I will give, and it's a pretty big hint.
Okay.
Um, I actually don't know when it came out, but it does star the main character from Even Stevens.
Okay.
And it's a pretty recent movie, the last,
Uh,
3 to 4 years, I'd say.
okay. I think I got an idea of what movie it is.
Um, haven't actually asked if you've seen it, but I'm gonna guess you haven't.
Yeah, I haven't seen a movie with him in it in a long time. The last movie I saw with him in it was Holes.
Okay, then yeah, we're safe.
Okay. I thought you were going to say it was Holes, which actually would have been a
No,
pretty good choice because I haven't seen that in a long time. But
it did cross my mind to go that far, but there are so many better options um, that he's done besides Holes. Like could have done Disturbia,
oh yeah,
um,
that's a good movie.
but I have seen that. So
Yeah, me too. I forgot about that.
well, this podcast really just flew by, didn't it?
It did. It really did.
Fun, just talking with your podcast buddy.
This is my buddy.
Is there anything you want to talk about? Any personal news or
Any personal news?
yeah, just I don't know. Maybe you got something to say, maybe you don't. I don't know.
I don't think that I do. How long have we been friends?
Since December 2010.
2010. It's a pretty
Well,
long
I don't
time.
know if I don't know if we were friends in December 2010
That's
though.
when we became Facebook friends, right?
Yeah, I guess so. That's when I was hired at the same job as you, and
Yeah,
we just had to coexist, and that's what we did.
yeah. And then we used to live, and then we lived together. We were like, I got to say that I am generally a pretty awkward person. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It's hard to. Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like when we lived together, this is how we interacted. Like how we're interacting right now on this podcast. This is how we interacted with each other in person. We were just like,
Um,
we were just like very. I don't even know. This is probably gonna get all edited out.
no, probably not. So I was thinking about the future of the podcast and how more difficult it would be to record this podcast in person
Hmm.
versus over the computer.
Yeah, like I
Like I
like.
don't know how we would do that.
Yeah, I know. I like that it's just me sitting in this room and you're way over there, and I don't have to interact with you on like a face to face.
Like, do we look at each other when we're talking?
I don't know. I don't like looking at people in the eyes.
Because you don't. Wait, why is that?
I don't know. It was mostly a joke.
All right, well, um, thanks for listening.
You're welcome.
That was Blade.
That was Blade.
That was another vampire movie.
Hmm.
Do you, before we go, I have gathering a list of good movies that maybe are good for future movies.
Hmm.
Um, for the podcast,
Hmm.
do you know after we watch this, I was gonna say Shia LaBeouf movie, do you have a clue what you want to do for the movie after that? For episode 13, lucky number 13?
I don't actually.
Good,
I don't.
good.
Usually, like right before I'm gonna start watching your movie, I pick what I'm gonna watch. Like sometimes I have a pretty good idea, but I have no idea.
Okay. Well, on
Yeah,
that note, we're just gonna end the podcast now.
yeah. I think it's best that we do.
Okay, well, again, good night. Or good morning.
Or good afternoon.
Okay, bye.
Okay.